So I recently seen a video where there was a financial expert. I don't know why people call themselves a financial expert, because everyone's finances is so different. Everyone's belief on money is so different. But anyway, he called himself a financial expert, and what he said was the worst investment and things that you should never do, never invest in, is the S&P 500. Do you guys agree with that? Do you think the worst investment to do is to put money into S&P 500? Well, I'm gonna play this video, guys, and I'm gonna give you guys my comments. So I'm gonna tell you right now, like, spoiler alert, I don't agree with him. So let's get straight to the video.
The S&P 500, it is not worth your time.
What's the S&P 500?
That's the US stock market. It's the broadest measure of the stock market, and you can buy shares in it. Now, that grows at about 11% a year. So let's imagine you've got your $1,000. Well, 11% a year is going to take you a fucking long time to make any money, right? Mm-hmm. So it is not worth your time. The financial advisors will say, yes, you must do this, start now. I'm like, I'm sorry, it's just not going to change your life. Okay, then we go to technology stocks. NASDAQ does about 18% a year. Okay, that's starting to add up because these numbers compound after a while. You know, it goes from 1,000 to 1,200, and then, you know, it's another 20% on top of that, 20%. These numbers add up fast. Bitcoin, since 2011, it's been 145% a year, even with it falling 80% 3 times in the middle of that. So 145% a year, as long as you're in it long enough, okay, now that's really starting to pay off. And then as you get slightly more speculative, I take a bit more risk in things, well, the returns go up, but they become riskier. So once you start moving into that world, okay, this is a whole different world now. Now the guy with $1,000 can get rich.
Wow. Okay. All right. Let's just man, he said a whole lot. He said a whole lot. But I got something for that, okay? Like, I'm not trying to bash the guy, but I do got some stuff in here that I want to share with you guys. That way you guys understand that what he's saying is not right. Now, the one thing I do appreciate from what he said was this about the S&P 500. He said, it's not worth your time. But the problem is when you're investing in the S&P 500, that's the reason why people like to invest, like to set it and forget it. You don't want to be tinkering and trying to figure all this out. It's the top 500 stocks in the US. Top 500 stocks in the US, and you're buying a piece of those. Okay, you're buying a piece of those. And if the market's doing good, you know you're making a lot of money, you're good. 11% is nothing to laugh at. All right, in his case, he said $1,000, but that's not what you're supposed to do. You're not supposed to put this in $1,000, sell it and forget it. It's not the way it works. You continue to do dollar cost average, you continue investing. You guys know how that works. What he's saying is $1,000, stop and sell and forget it. That's not true. Now, he started jumping to other indexes, right? Then he jumped to NASDAQ. He's like, hey, NASDAQ, technology stocks, you make more. You know, but the problem is with this, guys, is the higher you go, right? And like now he's saying go to tech stocks. It's going to go up and down, right? And now you are having to constantly be looking and get worried about, you know, the stock market going up and down in NASDAQ, and now it's going to start freaking you out. And that's when people start selling when it's getting low, and it's like you just get nervous. So that is, he's right in what he's saying, but he's wrong in the sense of it's not always going to be an up year. Okay, it's going to be up and down, and depending on where you are within the time you want to retire, the time you want to cash out, it might be on the downside, and that's not the best thing. I'd rather take the even movement. Okay, now he mentioned Bitcoin, and it's funny because I read someone's comments, and they were saying he kind of sounds like a Bitcoin salesman. He really does. And when it comes to Bitcoin, I'm not saying that I hate it, but that huge return means it's a huge risk. And he said it himself, there's been some years it's been down 80%. But the problem when it comes to Bitcoin is that average person that invests in the stock market, they don't fully understand Bitcoin, right? It's really hard for people to understand Bitcoin because Bitcoin is just a theory. It's a theory that this thing that you can't hold, right? You physically can't touch, you physically cannot use, has this value that's tremendously high, right? And it's hard for people to invest into it because they don't understand. Okay, when it goes up, it's like, why did it go up, right? Recently it went up because when Trump won the presidency, he's a big advocate now. He became a big advocate for Bitcoin, right? And I believe as well, he was saying that the reserves are going to buy 1% of the Bitcoins to hold it within the reserves, which is interesting in itself, but that caused the value to go up. Another thing that's interesting about it as well, a lot of people who have Bitcoin, the whole reason behind it is they want no government interference, but I guess now it's okay. Who knows? Anyway, let's continue with this. So with that being said, like the average person does not really understand what Bitcoin is all about. And that doesn't mean they should not invest in Bitcoin. I'm not anti-Bitcoin. But 11 years ago was probably the best time to invest in Bitcoin because it was something that no one knew exactly what this was about. And those people out there, which I have no idea how, I guess they must be all over Reddit. And I don't know how people even know about Bitcoin such a long time ago, but they did. They invested, now they became millionaires. But that was a very, 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 very long time ago. Like if you're buying it now, it doesn't mean you're gonna get all those gains that they had in the past. Because what happened in the past doesn't mean that's what's gonna happen in the future, right? It could just had reached its peak and that's it. So saying how Bitcoin was the way to go, of course, it's easy to say that hindsight 2020. Back in the days, it was easy to invest. But I got something for you, okay? For his thing, when he was saying the S&P 500 is not a waste, it's a waste of your time. And I'm gonna pull this up because I found this really interesting. Now, this is the reason why I'm a big advocate for S&P 500. Not simply, well, one of the reasons is because you could just invest, set it and forget it, and it's the 500 best stocks, the 500 best stocks in US. And remember this, behind those stocks is the 500 best CEOs, and they are working for you. Okay, you're not better than those 500 CEOs. They're working for you. They're strictly trying to increase the value of your stock. That's the number one goal, is to increase the earnings of the investors. Okay, remember that. Never forget that. 500, the best CEOs compared to Bitcoin, who no one even knows who created it at all. But anyway, let me get back to it. So what I want to say is this, right? As of September 21st, 2023, the following are the 25 largest S&P 500 index constituents by weight. Okay, I'm gonna read the top four. The top four is Apple, they hold 7%, Microsoft, 6.54%, Amazon, 3.24%, and Nvidia, 2.79%. We all heard about Nvidia, we all know how much it's blowing up. Now, what I want to share with you is this, right? He's talking about how much gains Bitcoin made, but how big was the gains for these other companies, okay? For example, Apple, right? If you would have bought it 10 years ago, it made a 684% return, okay? 684% return. That was in your portfolio if you invested in the S&P 500, okay? Now let's talk about Microsoft. Microsoft has a 770% return if you bought it 10 years ago. And once again, that's also in the S&P 500. These returns are extremely high. Extremely high. So right now, just the way it is, I invested in both these companies by investing in an index fund, ETFs, okay? The next one is Amazon. Amazon's return, dig this, 1,130%, okay? 1,130% if you invested in Amazon 10 years ago. Now, of course, the darling of it all that everyone talks about all over the news, everywhere, there's a bunch of YouTube videos, everyone talks about Nvidia. And this is the thing that people forget to realize too. I see a lot of videos of Nvidia, people talking about how they should invest in Nvidia as an individual stock when you don't need to. It's in the S&P 500. If you're someone like me and you've been investing in the S&P 500 for such a long period of time, you kind of just set it and forget it, you were in for a pleasant surprise when you recognize you've been holding Nvidia this whole time. But check this out. Nvidia had made 28,652% return. You had invested in the S&P 500 with all of these companies. There was no guessing. There was no guessing if Nvidia was going to hit. There was no guessing if Apple was going to hit, Amazon or Microsoft. There's no guessing. That's the beautiful thing about the S&P 500 is you do not need to try to speculate so much in order to get it right. Just invest in the best 500 companies. And the ones that are blowing up, your investments will blow up as well. Okay? The ones that go down, if one of them goes down, guess what? You have 499 of them just holding you down. So you're making so much money by the 499% just lifting you, so your losses won't be as bad. So if you do it all in just Bitcoin, you'll lose it all as well. So this is not to beat up on Bitcoin, because I understand a lot of people want to buy Bitcoin. And what scares me though is when people just want to get rich of Bitcoin, and they don't have the basic investing going on in their life. They don't even know what an IRA is. They don't even put money in a 401k, but they want to just jump into invest in Bitcoin. To me, Bitcoin is gambling. It's like buying a lotto ticket. To be extremely honest, it's like gambling. And there's nothing wrong with gambling. I do sports gambling. I love it. I have fun doing it. Nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with being speculative either. Nothing wrong with it. But with a very small percent of your portfolio, you do not want to play the game and risk it. Now, if you put 2% or even 5% investing into Bitcoin after you're investing and you're doing all the right things, then go right ahead. But expect to lose that money. And if it does hit, great. If it loses, then it loses. It's not going to destroy your financial world. But hearing messages like him is basically implying that everything you're doing with putting money into an index fund, the S&P 500, is a bad idea. And you should just invest into Bitcoin. I don't agree with it. And if you guys think I'm wrong, please drop a comment down below. I would love to have a conversation. But I'm pretty sure there's more people out there that are going to put some comments down below saying how much money they've made in the S&P 500 compared to Bitcoin. Okay? There's people right now probably getting headaches and having nightmares of Bitcoin because there's no regulatory, and that's 24/7. Anyone can say anything at any moment. And now with Trump being the president, you know he has a tendency of saying anything at any moment that could cause the price of the Bitcoin to go down tremendously at any time in the day. Well, anyway, guys, I really hope you enjoyed this video. Please take the time to hit the like, leave a comment, and subscribe. Catch you guys on the next one. Peace.